So for today's video, I wanted to fix a problem with our async image view. You can see it here. Sometimes images don't fill the entire row, particularly on bigger screens and in landscape. Sometimes they do, and they look good, but then sometimes they don't. So let's get started. I think let's just comment this out for the moment. We'll create a new async image. Be sure to pick this one with the URL and content signature. And it will take our pod URL. Double click on the AsyncImagePhase. And we'll name it phase. And let's create a switch statement. We'll switch on phase and let's add an empty case. And this is when before it's loaded or anything, so let's just add the progress view there. And let's see. Xcode is going to throw a lot of warnings at you during this time. Let's go ahead and build like that. It builds now, but we don't actually want it to build yet. We have known and unknown defaults, right? So I built again. It's complaining that switch must be exhaustive. Let's go ahead and let it add those cases for us. And let's, on success, we will name that image. Okay. And on failure, we'll just say error for now. I'm not sure why that wants to be there. It's not great. Okay, I'm not sure what that was about. That it just seems to pop up almost at random. Okay, so we are getting errors. I'm going to screenshot that one just because I want to see what's going on with that file later. They're not resizing still, but we are able to handle the error case. We're showing a loader still. Let's do some work to clean things up and just make that image resize. We'll set it to resizable. Let's build and have a look. We get an error again. And we see they're resizing. That's great. They're much taller. Some of them are kind of squashed. Let's fix that squashing issue and let's set it to scale them. And then we're going to take our old list row insets code so that it blows out, takes up the entire cell. And whenever we have an image, it's not a big deal. List row separator, let's hide that whenever we have an image. Not a big deal, but it's just that little hairline that appears. Let's build and run. That's looking decent. Oh yeah. Yeah, I like this a lot. This is much better, and then we're actually getting errors. So I'm going to screenshot another one just so I have a good sample set. So there's a few things we could do here. One, we should probably show something a little more informative or at least prettier on error message. So let's start with that, not the empty view, but the text error, sorry. And we'll make a label. That takes a title and an icon. Double click one of those placeholders. And let's give a little better error message. That's not great, but that'll get us by for now. And let's go into SF symbols. These are nice. Oh, I can't spell exclamation point right now. There we go. All right. So we're going to show an image on the left side of our label, at least in English. I suppose on right to left systems, it'll show up on the right. Okay. Let's try it one more time. Let's build once more. And then I think what we'll do is just clean this up, break these out into separate views. and then give them their own previews as well. Okay. Whoa. Huh. All right. That's great. Let's see. What we'll do is we'll create a new file called, we're going to take this async image view and let's put it in a file, a SwiftUI file. That'll give us the preview automatically. And let's call it pod image view. And we'll build and we'll get an error. That's okay. And let's pass it. We'll have it take a URL. Oh, yeah, of course. And our build failed. And let's see where our error is. It's here in our preview. That makes sense. And we'll go over to one of our existing views, the pod detail view. We'll take this static pod line and we'll paste it here. And we will also say that we want the URL. We'll rename that to URL, and then we will force unwrap that because it's for a preview. Let's see how we're doing here. We'll see if this preview works. Let's switch to a smaller device. That'll help. Hopefully it switches here. Okay. I'm gonna hit run. Okay. It gets the image, it shows it. It doesn't look quite like we would want it to, so let's go ahead and wrap it in a list. Okay, that's much better. That's a good improvement. I think we might do just a few more things. Back in our pod image view, let's add that to make sure we pasted everything we did. Let's replace that entire thing with the pod image view. That was a tough one. And we'll try that. And it's upset because it's an optional. And this is something we'll do some work at some point in order to not have these have to do these checks all the time. Oh, I'm getting turned around. We'll say if let URL equal pod URL, and then we'll go ahead and we can force unwrap it safely then. Oh, wrong one. We don't have to force unwrap. We'll do that. And there are several different ways to show that. We could like check for nil and then just have a nil view there, or our pod image view. Or probably more ideally, we'd have it like in let's make sure we still fixed our problem. That's the one downside. Okay, to changing the canvas view changes your one you're going to build for. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. We'll go back to pod image view. One thing, we don't even know what this looks like, right? We haven't seen it yet, which is kind of problematic. Let's move it into its own file as well. Okay, and we can just call it, we might just call it errorview for now. We might find we want a different name later, but that's okay. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of that. I do that on this one. I'm getting rid of that. You can use this code. If you find it and you find it useful, just use it. Attribution's nice, but that's fine. I'm not picky on that. Okay, so we now have our error view as a separate view. We should be able to get a preview here. Okay, so we got an error view showing there, so that's great. Every once in a while you'll see it when running the app, but I don't think we're going to be that lucky right now, and that's okay. The one last thing we could do is probably we could move this into its own view, I suppose, just to clean this view up, but it's not really necessary. Let's make sure, before we do anything else, I'm just kind of wrapping up on this one. Let's run it on that iPad mini again. I want to see if it works. And sometimes, if it's not getting the change, sometimes it helps to reboot the device, because sometimes it just doesn't deploy, at least on my machine lately. This is looking a lot better. You can actually see the image. Here's one where it was presumably nil, or maybe it was a video. I screenshotted that one just so I can look, and we'll figure out that later. And that's actually something we may look at next. Is just ensuring that if we have a video, that we make sure we get the thumbnail, and then we display that thumbnail image rather than just nothing. So that's it for this time.